Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu. Good morning. Since this is the first Sunday in June, this will be a Shotsuki service. I would like to read the names of those who have passed on in the month of June. Normally we would be reading this in the temple, and families and friends would come forward to offer and burn incense. Because we are doing this on a video manner, please go to your home altar or obutsudan and burn incense in memory of those who have passed on. I will read the names from those who have passed on most recently. Bob Ito, George Hiroshi Masumoto, Tomio Nakano, Haru Jared, George Tsubakihara, Ronald Iguchi, Shigeharu Nakamura, Tokyo Hayashi, Masako Lawrence, Minoru Nakamura, Miyoshi Tanaka, Mizue Kapo, Sadae Kohara, Makiko Ishizu, Bernard Elroy, Toshiko Mori, Tom Yonekura, Ronnie Ishisaki, Chieko Kida, Richard Teague, Ichiro Yamashita, George Yano, Naoe Yagura, Sandra Takashima, Fumiko Shinonaka, Kiyoshi Shinsato, Emi Fujimoto, Richard Watanabe, Frank Yamada, Seiichi Shimizu, Tamotsu Matsumoto, Ichiji Ouchi, Kuni Shimada, Kyoji Otomo, Yuru Shiraishi, Tamotsu Ojiri, Yuka Yamanokuchi, Midori Morimoto, Jitaro Atuue, Toichi Okamura, Kikuyo Kawasaki, Tsune Tsubota, Shigeo Fujimoto, Toshiko Yamada, Yozo Kawato, Rokuichi Hanano, Ju Kichi Yamanishi, Shojiro Samashima, Yukino Sameshima, Shizu Moriyama, Shigeyuki Furuya, Matsue Morita, Hideo Iwata, Goichiro Haseyama, Isano Sugioka, Toichi Kodama, Hajime Yonekura, Minetaro Hosaka, Akito Matsui, Nobuko Ito, Masami Ito, Mika Sato. Those are the names of people who have passed away this month. Also, you may think of those, if we have not called out those names, to burn incense in their honor, for those are the people who contributed to making our lives what it is today. Now, I hope that everyone is doing okay at home. We are going on the third month of our isolation. I've contacted many of you by phone to see how you're doing. And I'm gratified to know that family and friends have contacted you and are making sure that everyone is okay, even in isolation. And I'm surprised and gratified when I call to see how people are doing, and they ask me in return, how are you and Karen doing? And I realize that I'm in that elder select group of people who are in the high-risk group. And so I appreciate your concern for us. We are safe at home, and we're doing a lot of Zoom meetings. Now, this is about the third month, and we're still getting mixed messages. We really haven't had any reports from our national leadership as far as how this pandemic is going on and what we might be doing about it. The pictures we have seen on TV are somewhat mixed because we see the president and some aides going around without masks and it seems as though things are back to normal. And yet we know from our local authorities that we need to wear masks to help to prevent the spread of this virus. Now, there's no scientific reasons why we should be more relaxed, and yet we see this. The protest movement of the Black Lives Matter really has taken over the news, and so some of that has caused us to not know too much about this, the pandemic, and we'll talk about that a little later. We're fortunate in California to have Governor Newsom take a leadership position and direct many things and open up things as he feels safe. Now, it's confusing when we do see people both in public and actually going into restaurants and businesses now, hopefully with their masks on. And yet, this gives us a sense, I think a false sense of security that things are back to normal. And yet, I want to reiterate that things are not safe. And who do we listen to? I want to report that as a young dentist, I had an experience that might be reflected here. I and a group of my friends started using this new type crown, which was supposed to be great. We felt pretty cool being the first ones using this. But after a few years, we found that these new crowns, which were supposed to be the new thing in the future, started to break and some would come off. And so we've realized that we were too early in our assessments of this new technique. And so later on, I waited until other people started using new techniques and new products. And when I found that they were safe, then I would go out and buy and utilize these things. And so it's somewhat similar now as we watch people congregate, go into businesses, restaurants. I think we really need to be careful and wait until we see results. Right now in California and in San Diego, the rate seems to be pretty steady, but things are rising, and so I think we should really be concerned. I'm really concerned with the health and safety of our members, and therefore I have said that even though we would really like to see people back at our temple, we need to be safe about it. And rituals and services are very important. But more important is the health of our members. And that rituals and services are a means to understand truth. And the truth of the matter at this time is that we have this COVID virus, which is very infectious, very deadly, and we don't want people to become infected. Now, it would be sad if people were to come to a service or funeral and be infected with this. And this has happened, as we have heard, in other states in the East. And so even though the President has ordered churches to be open, I think from a health standpoint, it's not safe to do so. And I think you'll be happy to know that the usual core of volunteers who help and do so much at the temple are still very active. We've been meeting over Zoom, thinking and planning and trying to think of ways that we can return the temple to some function, either virtually or in real time. And so they've been planning on ways to present many of the things, and you realize that some of our services or Dharma talks, Dharma school, the teachers are doing things on Zoom, activities and other groups have been meeting on Zoom and virtually. And so things are going on at some level. And so we are thinking of ways of either continuing with this, because I think this pandemic will be with us for a while. Now, those with computers, please pass along the information you might hear, things that are important for all of our members to hear. There are those who are not able to go online, see our website, and listen to our sermons, but Bishop Harada is still doing his telephone Dharma messages. So I would ask everyone, each of you, perhaps you might call someone that you think might need a phone call. Now, on this Black Lives Matter, which has really taken over our news, rightly so, for the past 2 weeks, the outpouring of support has been growing. And this is what waking up is about. These issues have been around us for not only decades, but for centuries. And the killing of black men by police has been an ongoing situation. But because of a video which shows a police officer with his knee on a person's neck for 8 minutes and 46 seconds, we are now waking up to this reality. We see that it's real. And now we're taking this seriously, and people are reacting to it. Again, this is the way we wake up. I have been talking about spirituality, that it's all around us, and yet it may take some incident, like the loss of a loved one, for us to really wake up. But what has been really eye-opening is the reports by people that we're listening to, that even if a black person were a professor, a professional, a business leader, a politician, they've all reported encounters with police at a negative level. And what was most disturbing to me was to hear that black fathers had to talk to their teenage sons on how to behave when they encounter police. Now, I have 2 sons and I've never had to do that, and that was quite disturbing for me. So we begin to realize the lives of other people. This is compassion, how we experience the suffering of others and how we take into consideration what we do about it. And so Black Lives Matter is an important subject right now. It goes beyond just racial and social injustice. But we need to keep the focus on this now, as it will take time. This is a complex issue, and it's best to listen to all the details, to listen to how the lives of others have affected everyone. I'll talk next about Dr. Duncan Williams, but yesterday on Saturday and this weekend, there's an event called Tsuru for Solidarity. And the event was planned to be in Washington, D.C. to present cranes, Tsuru, at Lafayette Park in front of the White House. This event had to be canceled because of the COVID-19 pandemic. However, it was presented on Zoom and on a virtual level yesterday and today. And Dr. Satsuki Ina, who I think many of us are familiar with, was a co-founder of this group, because her background as a psychologist has been to determine the damaging effects of incarceration of children, especially during the World War II camps that many of us have experienced. And the word solidarity indicates that we are in support of opposing these practices where children are separated from their parents. Now, of course, the Japanese community has a valid voice in voicing our opposition to that which is going on right now. We may know that 120,000 Japanese Americans were incarcerated in camps away from the West Coast over 75 years ago. No one stood up for us, except for the Quakers. And so I think it's important that we who have experienced these damaging effects stand up and speak for others. Again, this is an act of compassion. Because we have experienced this ourselves, we might voice how this has affected our lives and that it does affect others. Yesterday, Reverend Ron Kobata performed an opening ritual from the San Francisco Buddhist Church. Later in the program, Reverend Dr. Duncan Williams had a ceremony at the Higashi Honganji Temple in LA where he gave a Dharma talk. And in it, he did talk about the effects that the camp experience have had on many people, especially Buddhists, who were treated differently from our Christian people. During this time, they had a ceremony where they read the names of about 10 Japanese Americans or Japanese who were killed by authorities during this time of 1942 to 1945. And after they read the name of that person, who he was and how he died, they read the name of a black or Latino person killed recently, within the last 3 months. And we see that in 75 years, in some respects, little has changed. things have changed, but it's very slow. And it's up to us to help make this change for the better. Reverend Briones and Reverend Ito of the Nishi and Higashi Honganji also participated in that. And I'd like to mention that our own Shirley Omori was featured in being one of the dancers in one of the segments, and it displayed her with her giant tsuru that she had made. Many members of our temple were active in making these tsuru, and 1,000 of them will be brought to Washington, D.C. next year when they have this event. Also, the 1,000 cranes made for my son Kirk will also be brought there next year. Now, some people may wonder and object to our being political. However, this is not politics, and I'll be talking about the confluence of religion, politics, our economic and social world. Now, as I said, what Dr. Duncan Williams talked about was the fact that during World War II, Buddhist ministers were separated from their families and put in jails at Crystal City, whereas their Christian counterparts were not. So I think it is more that politics has invaded into the religious realm. And as far as religion, we practice what we hear in what the Buddha talked about. And we have this thought of the Bodhisattva, that all beings are affected equally. The Bodhisattva has the thought that he will not be awakened until all other beings are awakened before or with him. And so we accept this thought that if one suffers, we all suffer. And so I think this is a guide for us to go into the future. So next week, I would like to talk about the future on what we as Shin Buddhists might do in this tumultuous times where many things are happening. As I said, we still have this pandemic, the Black Lives Matter, injustice in many areas of our lives. So what do we as Buddhists do? I think we've touched on some of this, but I wish to go into this a little further next week. So with that, please join me in closing and expressing our deepest expression of gratitude for that which we have to counter that balance for things that we deserve. Gasho. Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu.